Hi, my name's Jim Gaston. I'm here to tell you a story about our adventure to the hot springs at Pino. And me and Fred started out on June 24th, 1978. We left Reno, beautiful day. And Fred took me out because I was new to the family. And I think this was his way of showing me his side of the family and wanted to get me out in the desert and show me everything he knew and saw. So first we went into Lovelock, and we went to the Lovelock caves, and we did some exploring down there for 4 or 5 hours, and then we got back in the truck, and we drove. I wasn't quite sure where we were going at the time, but he mentioned Leonard Creek Ranch, and so we drove out here, and Fred was on the hunt for some certain kind of rock he was looking for. So we were cruising down on the main road, and all of a sudden Fred just takes off in the sagebrush. And so we're traveling from the north, like heading south, and he seen something on the side of the mountain. We four-wheeled up to it. It wasn't the rock he wanted. So we got back in the truck, and on the way driving through the desert, just plowing over sagebrush, Fred mentioned these hot springs, and he wanted to take me to them. We were going to take a bath, soak in and get cleaned up. So we were going through the sagebrush, and we got close to the springs. When we got close to the hot springs, we noticed a Scout parked in between the springs, and there's some legs hanging out of it, and there was a shovel leaning against the door, and the legs were wet, so it looked like he was just been doing some digging and got out of the springs. So we pulled up down by the lower springs, and we got out of the truck and walked up to the springs, and it was just the water was cold feeling. So Fred's like, well, let's drive up to the upper springs. So we were being nice and quiet. We didn't want to wake the old boy in the truck, in the Scout. So we got in the truck and pulled up to the upper springs, and we got out. I got out of the driver's side, and I started heading out to the middle in between the springs, and I was like on the east side of the Scout, and the Scout was to my right, and we were being nice and quiet. And I was out a little ways from Fred, and Fred was just out of his truck, and he wasn't not even 10 feet from the front of his truck, and he didn't yell out to me, but he's like, Jim, come over here now. So I turned, I walked, and I thought he found something interesting. So I was heading that way, and we had a smell that was in the area, but it smelled like hot springs and just a foul smell. So when I got close to Fred put his arm out, and he kind of pointed in a direction. And I looked over there and seen a couple bodies there that were pretty gnarly looking, and they were just black. And I didn't really look too much at them, but because Fred reached over and grabbed my arm and said, we got to get out of here. So we kind of went into defense mode, and just Fred goes, get the shotgun. So I reached in, I got the shotgun and got it loaded, and he goes, crawl through the driver's side. So I crawled through and got in the passenger side, had the gun ready, because after seeing the bodies, we thought the guy in the Scout that was taking a nap was actually the shooter. And so we backed out of there, and we just crept out of there really slow, and I just kept my eye. Fred was yelling at me to keep my eye on the guy in the Scout, which I did, and then we got like probably 50, 100 feet from where we were, and Fred just put the pedal down, and we took off across the desert, and we came down and seen a car that was parked out in front of us with the door open. And we went into defense mode again, thinking, okay, there might be a shooter down there. Just opened up the door and he's sitting behind it. So we were panicking about that, and we hit a ditch and scared the heck out of us. But we made it past there and got out. And well, when we hit the ditch, it's kind of a funny story because Fred, when we were going so fast when we hit the ditch that the truck bounced and Fred's knee came up and hit the stick shift and knocked it in neutral. And then he went back straight to the gas and the motor just roared. And we looked at each other like, oh crap, this is it. We're going to get shot right here. So then he noticed it was just kicked in neutral, so he put it back in drive, and we took off down the road. And we got down, I don't know, probably another quarter mile, half mile like that, and just stopped. And just in a daze, we just started talking about what we just seen and what happened. And we're trying to figure out in our heads, like, why this happened and who was the shooter. We thought the guy in the Scout was the shooter the whole time. And from there, after we got our heads together, we're like, well, we got to report this. So we drove down to Bottle Creek Ranch, I think it was called. And there was a rancher on front. And we told him what happened. And he went in and called into Winnemucca to get the sheriffs out here. So they wanted us to wait. So we waited until the sheriffs got out there. And we told them the guy in the Scout, and we thought he was the shooter still, and we told him the layout, where the bodies were, and how the Scout was, and we explained to him about the shovel and his wet legs. So, you know, he could have possibly been the shooter from the looks of it. So we explained everything, filled out the reports and everything, and by that time it was getting dark. So the sheriffs weren't going to go up there. They waited. They spent the night at Bottle Creek, and they asked us to stay. And Fred wasn't comfortable staying there with some sheriffs. So we drove out in the hills, and they asked us to come back the next day so we could talk to them about what they did, what we seen, and if everything was compared to what we first said to them. So we went and spent the night out in the hills, and it's a funny story that I gotta tell, because Fred, you know, he's a pretty good humored guy, and I had long legs, so I slept in the back of the truck, the bed of the truck, and the next morning woke up, and Fred woke me up, and to my right I had my shotgun loaded and sitting there. And to my left, I had my buck knife up on the wheel well. And Fred leans over and he just starts laughing. He's like, he goes, "That's all right, Jim." He goes, "I had the doors locked." It was, you know, that was the delight part of that whole adventure for right then. And so we drove back down to Bottle Creek, and we waited. And then the sheriffs were up here early in the morning, because it wasn't too far after sunup that we came back down to the ranch, and they came over and talked to us, and we were in the truck when this man approached us, and he just kind of leaned in the truck, and the first thing out of his mouth was like, "You two guys are lucky to be alive." He goes, that hermit said that he seen the dust trail coming out of there, and he could shoot the gonads off a flea at 1,000 yards. So that's really when it hit me. I was like, God, how did we survive this? But you know, our luck of it, I think, because we came in from the desert, and I didn't know where the hermits lived or anything, but I don't think he could see us, and we didn't make a dust trail coming in. We were nice and quiet. So when we left, we had quite the dust trail going, and I think that's when the hermit realized, like, this is it for him, you know. I don't know why he didn't run that night. It's kind of strange, but we filled out all the paperwork, and we're glad that it got him, because it was a awful thing that he did, and we felt so sorry for the people. But we didn't know the whole story, and we didn't know the whole story until weeks after. You know, we had to appear in court, so it was a few weeks down the road, and we went to Winnemucca to do our testament, and Fred and Mills Lane didn't want me to go into court to see this guy, so I stayed out in the hallway, and I talked to the family of the girl, and we sat and talked for a while, and then after it was all over and everything, me and Fred and Mills Lane, there was the chief coroner, the deputy coroner, and I believe there was a deputy there, and we all went to lunch, and it was that's when they started talking about the story of Bristle Wolf. They didn't tell us too much. It was just through the years going down the road, I heard bits and pieces of what happened out here and what they think happened out here, and it was something to see for a young man. It stayed in my mind for quite a few years, but it wasn't. I mean, the sight of the bodies was scary, but it was just the thought of that could have been it for us, and the guy would have definitely shot us, I believe, just to keep everything hidden. And we're just grateful that we survived this encounter.